everybody!
Yo!
Hello!
Yay!
Welcome to our new show. Into Next. And what does this have to do with anything? Well, before we get to that, because I'm not quite sure. Nothing at all.
What is the meaning of this?
What is the meaning of this? These words that we've thrown up on the screen.
I suppose you're wondering why we've gathered you here today.
So yes, basically, let's introduce everybody. We have our good old buddy, Mr. Locke, 6-time, a.k.a.
Hello.
Locke. And then we have a new person on our show tonight, Miss Skylatron.
Hello.
And then we also have Mr. Stakas,
And
who's in Australia.
Yeah, well, yes. So good morning to Australians, good evening to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Stacker's last known location, the Outback.
Where there's nothing but drop bears and sand. That's
The
all
overcast desert.
Don't even get me started on snakes.
Yes. So let me explain the premise of our show, why we're doing this, why we switched it all up, where the other people are, and we'll kind of get all this stuff covered at first, and then we'll get into the vapidity. Before we get into the vapidness of space, would you all please remember that you can leave questions by typing in question in brackets, and our super moderator, Miss Maka, who's in chat right now, will grab that up and stick them into our chatty chat in the window. All right, so what is this? What are we doing? We decided that while Landmark is amazing and awesome, and we love Landmark, we will continue to keep covering Landmark. But we wanted to kind of go back to our roots. For those of you who might have been fans of the show for a long time, it used to be just myself, Locke, and a guy named Zaphos. And Zaphos ended up having to leave because he got his kneecaps replaced, and he had him mounted on his ears. I think I can't remember how that happened. But
they exploded. It was a tragedy.
His kneecaps did explode, which was very tragic. So we ended up moving the show to where we then brought in Tobran, and then some more people started joining the cast, and more people started joining the cast, and pretty soon we had like 45 people on the cast. And while that was great, and we were started out as an EverQuest show, we ended up moving more and more into just Landmark. And as Landmark became closer and closer to release, it went into alpha. We basically stopped talking about EverQuest Next altogether. Like, just completely stopped. We had nothing else to talk about, really, for Next, so we were talking mostly about Landmark. And most of you wrote to me, or a lot of the people in the audience said, hey, whatever happened to you guys talking about Next? Because, we're all really interested in Next. While Landmark is great, and we think it's a great idea, but I'm maybe not a builder, I'm not interested in doing that kind of thing, I really want to hear about Next, we totally dropped it from the show. So we thought, instead of just taking the Into the Portal and leaving that with mostly the Landmark part, we would then move ahead with a new show called just Into Next, and that's what we're going to do, is just talk about Into Next, and we'll go back to Into the Portal on like a bi-weekly basis. We'll switch back and forth and kind of teeter-totter back and forth between the two different games until we kind of get to a point where we feel it either should separate completely or whatever. So, here we are, and welcome. I guess that was a long-winded introduction.
And the podcast is over.
And the podcast is over. We can go now.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you for coming. So,
That's what's happening.
yeah, so, Locke.
Hello.
I'm going to throw this at you because I know you're prepared. You've had months and months and months to prepare this. Could you please explain what is EverQuest Next for those who might not know?
I'm glad you asked, Mr. Domo.
Yes.
People think when I'm on shows like this and when I do my videos that I'm just talking and rambling, but actually this is heavily scripted. So if you could all please just focus on the screen for the next 3 or 4 hours while I talk about this. EverQuest Next is an upcoming MMO RPG from SOE, the people that brought you the original EverQuest. The parental, non-gender specific parental figure for 3D MMOs, the type of MMOs that I'm sure everyone here, or 99% of people here have played and loved before. And EverQuest Next, what it's set out to do, the reason that it exists in the form that it exists at the moment is because they wanted to take a step in a new direction for the MMO genre. They didn't want to reiterate on the EverQuest model. They didn't even want to, try and go after that WoW money that everyone else is going after. And we know we can all name games that have come out or are coming out recently that are still following that formula 10 years later. EverQuest Next is all about taking the classic MMORPG and using the technology that we have now, everything that we've learned over the years, and creating something revolutionary again. And that is why I'm excited about that game. And obviously Landmark is a huge part of that as well. It's a huge part of the kind of revolution of the genre. But EverQuest Next, to me, is the first real step forward for a genre that I've loved for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of other people here have. So that's how I'd explain what EverQuest Next is, or what it means to me. I suppose we can talk about more specific things if you like.
Well, we'll get into specifics at some point, but Stockus, what makes you kind of excited for EverQuest Next? What is the things that are like? What's the potential that maybe has you really excited for it?
Well, having played a small amount of WoW and not really digging it, just the general feel of the game itself. When I first started learning about Next.
Not
Sorry,
the same.
Stockus. What I'm doing right now is I've got your video window from Skype as you're talking, and I'm just dragging it around my screen in different shapes while you talk. And that just took me a bit. I'm terribly sorry.
That's okay. When I started learning about Next, it seemed to address all of the major issues that I had with WoW almost instantly. Like, I was upset about how hard it was to navigate through WoW when you weren't part of a large guild, or when you were sort of trying to solo it yourself. The kind of very linear feel to the game where it's just point A to point B, do this, that's it, you're done, then go back to where you came from, and all that sort of... Anyone who has ever stepped foot in WoW will understand that. And then they started explaining Next and all of the really cool stuff that it could be, and it just... Something inside me sparked, and I thought, I could really get into this. And so I guess it's the magic behind it that really got me excited. The fact that there are so many possibilities, there's so much more new technology that they're introducing into the game. And Sony's push to try and not be WoW and not be any sort of set specific, MMO genre, that was really an appealing thing for myself.
Lock. You Jesus, Lock.
Getting requests from...
Sorry, we're having some issues with Twitch right now. We're changing the title, and it keeps going back to Arcade, and I don't know why. So give me a second.
Twitch is drunk.
Twitch is drunk. So while Twitch is drunk,
yes,
Miss Skylar, would you please tell us a little bit about your background with EverQuest, and what maybe has you excited about EverQuest Next?
Yeah, totally. EverQuest was, like many, many people these days, my firstest MMO ever. And I was 11 or 12, like forever ago.
Oh God, you make me feel so old.
So, obviously, at that point, they revolutionized our industry now, what we're playing now. And so I'm really excited to see what they do with EverQuest Next, because I think they can do it again. I think that lightning can strike twice in that. And, Guild Wars 2 tried to do the non-linear questing thing, and that sort of ended up being a bit of a disappointment. It ended up being more bland than they made it out to be, because it was just linear questing at the end of the day. You just ran from heart to heart. And I hope that EverQuest Next can get out of that and actually do it. And what they're doing with the AI, Storybricks, and all that has me extremely excited. I want to adventure, finally.
Right.
Yeah. A group of friends on an epic quest.
That's a real one. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned Guild Wars 2, actually, because I remember in all the build up to that, they did make a huge thing about, what players do in the world matters. You're going to, they said there are going to be these events that happens, but players are going to be involved in pushing them backwards and forwards and like making things happen in the zone. But like you said, it ended up being a very static timed thing, and it didn't actually matter if players were present or not, because it would just go backwards and forwards whether you were there or not. And I think a lot of people were very let down by that, and I think the main reason was it promised to be something that it couldn't deliver, because the only the only things it was like innovating on were things that they took the WoW model and they pulled bits off and they stuck bits on. So it could never escape what it essentially was. They might have had the ambition and the idea might have been behind it, but ultimately they were bound by that central core structure of what we've come to expect as being an MMO for so long. And the EverQuest Next, like you said, it's a whole new start. It's new technology. It's a fundamental core change in the way that the game is being made from the start, which means they can do radically different things.
This is why I want to do this show, because I got a question for you now, Locke, right?
I just want to hang out with you, Domo. Why do we always have to be in front of people when we spend time together?
Why are you going to talk business?
I even put pants on. Stackus doesn't.
Stackus probably has no pants.
I've got none.
Okay, so my question for you is this whole thing, and any of you can answer this, but I'm just throwing it at Locke right this second, but you guys please pipe up if you have some opinions. Is this whole thing about MMOs becoming so complex, and we're going to mention ArcAge tonight because that's what I'm playing recently, and Locke is probably going to get it, and Stackus is going to get it, and Skyla's going to get it. So these games are becoming so immense and like intricate and detailed that is it becoming too much for the average player? Are we having such a paradigm shift with what's going on with EverQuest Next example? Is there's just so much new things that are coming with that? Can they package it all into a way that we can play it and enjoy it? Or is it going to be just so intense that we're just like, I don't know what to do? Because remember, we're talking sandbox, and most people are used to playing sort of a theme park. They're going through a linear progression from point A to point B, riding the rides and getting off and waiting for the new rides to show up. And now with like ArcAge even, I'm playing and I'm like, well, what should I do next? Well, I guess I could continue on my quest line. So that's my question is, do you think that it's becoming just so massive and crazy that we aren't able to keep up? Or we might not be able to keep up, especially in like this game?
Well, for me, the really interesting point about this is every new project has to be approached from the standpoint of, you need to look at it as a design challenge, like anyone can just write a list of things to make an incredibly complicated game. Like a lot of people you see posts on forums all the time where people are like, there has to be horse breeding, and they list all of this. That's
which
literally
ArcAge
something
has.
I saw. Like for H1Z1, someone was like, if there's no horse breeding, I'm not playing. And they write out this like huge list of really complicated things, and you have to have stables, and like depending on like which male and which female breed, and then there's going to be inbreeding and like all these things. Like creating complexity is very easy, but creating depth is extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's, obviously talking about sandboxes, EVE Online, just, it's right on it's right on that knife edge all the time, and they're very aware of it, with in terms of complexity and the leveling thing in that game. So I think it's ultimately a design challenge. The difference between sandbox and theme park is that in a sandbox, the challenge is showing people what they can do and giving them motivation to go after it, without them feeling like they're railroaded towards something. Mm-hmm. I think EVE does an incredibly good job of that, but that's all about player interaction, which is the ultimate goal at the end of this anyway. And I think that it's about design, and I think complexity. I think PC gamers like a bit of complexity, don't we?
Like, yeah, but does it get too much? I'm saying is
it can. It definitely can. But I think if you look at the most popular games at the moment, you look at a MOBA. You take Dota 2, for example, like you can play that game for thousands and thousands of hours and still be considered bad at the game because you don't know enough about the game. And there's always, and I think, but at the same time, it doesn't take very long to understand the game and get into it, like to understand the mechanics of the game and how it works on that kind of backwards and forwards type of things. But there's an incredible amount of depth to it, which means that players can push themselves as far as they want to go. The same in EVE as well. Like in EVE Online, after about a week, like with a little bit of guidance, you can be extremely useful to a corporation. You can have a position within a corporation immediately that links you with those veteran players. Mm-hmm. So then, you end up with this kind of mentor system, and as you go through it, you can learn more about the game at your own pace because you're already in it and you're already playing the game. There's no rush to get to max level, and I think that's the strength of the sandbox design model. That now, you look at theme parks now, every theme park's offering an immediate boost to max level. Like, I don't think people want that kind of leveling experience anymore. I don't think people want. I think people have got beyond that kind of progression.
But that's like an
games.
Arcade example. I guess we could start talking a little more about it. But that has a leveling system and it's a sandbox. You know, it's doable. Skyla, what do you think?
I think that gamers who have been playing MMOs for a long time are tired of the theme park thing. So I think that adding more depth, right, not necessarily just complexity, is very important for pushing forward in the genre. Like Age of Wushu had complexity, but that was impossible. That wasn't fun. That was ridiculous. And I think that you can add the depth and the interest level and the giving the player a carrot without it being too hard.
Too punitive.
Yeah, but I think that there's room for both. I don't think that it's the end of theme park MMOs when EverQuest Next comes out. I think people will still be doing it and that players will still be playing it because we like different things.
We like different things, yeah. And some people, they just can't grasp the concept of a sandbox, and they would rather have the hand-holding of, okay, go... And in arcades right now, they have arrows on the ground which tell me exactly where I need to go next. Like, okay, my first quest is here, my second quest is there, and just to, follow these arrows and everything will be happy, and it's, so there is that element of people that like that sort of thing, and there's, like you were saying, people like different stuff, so there's a good chance that they will probably want to play that kind of game, and maybe EverQuest Next might not be for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about taste. Yeah. Sorry, Stackers. Are you going to go?
No. I was just going to say, I think there's a confusion between introducing an amount of complexity instantly equaling an amount of depth. Like, there's this mindset that I'm going to introduce a very complex system, and by doing that, it's going to automatically create an amount of depth in the game, which is just not true. Creating a completely ridiculously convoluted way to craft a particular item doesn't necessarily make it in depth. It just makes it a pain in the ass for the player to do. But I think there is a fine balance. There can be a very good way of using complexity to create depth, but there has to be an amount of depth to start with. You can't just say, it's going to take 15 steps to create a bow, so therefore the creation of the bow is an in-depth experience. Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, I like to see complexity in particular aspects of a game, but I don't want it to get in the way of the gameplay. I want to feel like I'm in depth and involved and immersed in the game, but I don't want the mechanics of achieving that to get in the way of what I'm doing.
Do you know what I think the absolute kicker is on this?
What?
It's... I'm glad you asked, Dom.
I'm glad.
I think,
no, actually, don't talk about it. Let's talk about something.
Okay,
No.
We'll move on.
No, go ahead.
No.
But what I genuinely, I say this all the time, so I'm sorry if I sound like I'm repeating myself, but ultimately I think, especially in a sandbox, what is interesting and compelling to me about that type of game is if you give players tools that allow them to essentially create the content, not in a UGC kind of way, but in an EVE Online, other players are the content in that game. If you take everyone else out of EVE, there's very little to do, and what there isn't particularly compelling. But the masterful thing that EVE managed to do, even though it is quite bloated and there's definitely a very steep learning curve on it, is they gave players a possibility space. That's the phrase that I always use is, just this huge amount, almost limitless possibilities of things that can happen. When you log in, you don't, it's not that you're just going to go and you're going to do the raid and you're going to fight the boss and you're all going to do the line dance and you'll all do it perfectly and you'll get the loot drop that you want and it'll be great and everyone will have fun. But you log in and you don't know what's going to happen. You could log in on a sandbox game like EVE Online one day, and it could be the day that the great heist happened. And one of the largest corporations could be taken down by a mole who's worked their way through the ranks for a year in order to take down this one huge corporation. And that's something that cannot happen in theme parks. But conversely, in a theme park, you always know when you go in, like, you always know there's going to be a thing for you to do, even if you've done it before. So there is that discrepancy, and I think that's why some people don't get it. But for me, it's all about that possibility space. Same with Dota 2. You know, every time you go into Dota, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to pick what.
Who's going to what on a team? Yeah.
I mean, I can understand what you're saying. The unknown does deliver its own issues, but at the same time, an amount of depth, because it's more realistic, isn't it? I mean, when you wake up, I am as real as it gets. You have no idea. Now, and I don't want to drag Star Citizen into it, but in the same aspect, using players and their own actions to drive the story and the motivation behind what happens next does in itself create, you know, a depth and an immersion and in itself a complicated, you know, complications too, because you're not dealing with a scripted AI NPC where if you act a certain way, it's going to react adversely to that. And then you know that if you act that way again, it's going to have the same reaction. But if it's driven by like a player content, it may not be the same person next time, and it may the same situation may have a completely different outcome, and that's something that you can't get from. I mean, I don't believe you could get from a theme park MMO. You know, it's another dimension again, introducing players that can drive story content that is just. It's a completely unscripted thing. Oh, he's muted. Foo's come home drunk.
Sorry, everybody. 1 second.
Sorry, she's just running around. She was doing a little dance, and then she went, "Is that Stackers?" And now she's gone out.
Oh, you okay? No, I'm here with my mic muted because my wife was asking me a question. So
sorry.
The women,
to what Stackers was saying, I think it's a great point. She's brought this.
Oh, Foo!
No. Get it off the screen.
I love you, Foo.
Off the screen with the yeasty,
I saw it first.
Whatever nastiness.
Anyway, what Stackers was saying about it is the thing that I alluded to about like, the difference between theme park and sandbox, and how there's always something to do in a theme park. I think the story bricks thing is what SOE is hoping is going to plug that gap that exists between the two, like because it's a system that allows them to have a great wealth of non-player character based content in the game that also reacts to what players do. You know, it's not intended to be static, and it's intended to be interactable with the players. Like we were talking about Guild Wars 2 earlier, kind of it didn't quite get to where it wanted to go because it was still rooted in that static content of like mobs would spawn and things would happen. Whereas with Storybricks, it's very much about the way that players interact with the NPCs and the way that NPCs interact with each other. You know, as a player, you can indirectly influence events that are happening around a certain group of NPCs. And it's the Storybricks system, you know, it's why I go on about it all the time, is what allows that nature of storytelling using NPCs and not just other players. And that's very exciting to me.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. All right, let me see here. Going back up here. All right, so the future of online gaming panel. Did you want to talk about that a little bit, Locked?
I do want to talk about it, but I want to know if Skylar watched that.
There were two. Which one?
Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just felt like I've been told.
Well, I was at PAX and she was at PAX too, and I never got to see any of them.
I saw the last one, the future of MMOs with WildStar and the Warhammer 40k guys and all of them. So that one I did watch.
That's the one. That's the one that we're on about. The one with the dig at WildStar. The last AAA.
Yeah.
Oh,
somebody's gonna get into fights.
Oh, I tell you, feel bad. You know, I'm gonna say it. There's a beta weekend on at the moment. You can get keys everywhere. Try it. The combat's amazing. But I wrote a column that's coming out tomorrow that kind of says it's the same problem again. You know, they focused on the wrong area. They made the combat really fun, but the combat is the means to the end, and the end is the same.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's like sooner or later. That's just going to become normal. That's going to be default, and people are going to be looking at what happens when we use that. And I think, I want to like it though. It's so well made. And anyway, sorry. Future of MMO panel.
Yeah.
This is why I tried to pass it over. Wildstar.
Oh, I was waiting for you to say something about the future of MMO. I'm like, okay. Yes.
No, I was waiting for you guys to say it. No, I don't want to. Okay, future of MMOs panel.
Well, I didn't get to see it, and Skylar only saw one. So
I think the one that Skylar saw is the one we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then
it had Dave
I'm out.
on it. And
I'll make comments about
it. It had Dave George then.
Okay,
it was. Yeah. I think like it's definitely worth watching. Like if anyone here hasn't seen it, I'd say it's definitely worth a watch. Just because it's incredibly interesting to hear what all the different developers disagree on and what they agree on. Like for example, a lot of the other developers were saying that technological limitations were the main thing that was preventing persistent, massively multiplayer online content from moving forward in basically the way that SOE are planning for EverQuest Next and Landmark, with the Voxel farm and with Storybricks. Those are the things. They want the world to be destructible. They want the world to be changeable in its immediate form and over time as well. They want different things to be able to be happening constantly. They don't want people to be repeating content, and they think that that's possible, and they think that the AI has got to a point where it's possible, and they think the way that they're building the world is robust enough to allow that. But a lot of other people in the industry, even people that are well into their sandbox things and they want it to be like all emergent and everything, everyone else is saying, we're not there yet. So I think it puts it puts SOE in an interesting position. Either they'll be visionaries again. Sorry, Skylar, it looks like you wanted to jump on.
Well, I mean, EverQuest Next probably isn't there yet either. Mm-hmm. We don't really have any footage, really. We don't really know. So they've got another, say, year and a half or something, if you guys are predicting the same-ish timeline I am. Yeah. And WildStar's out now. So yeah, maybe EQ Next doesn't have that technology yet, but they're talking about it like they do.
They're working on it, yeah. I mean, well, they're still working on the R&D for their water systems and everything, aren't they? Yeah. I said it. I brought it up.
Oh
what?
My God.
We're going to talk about that now? No. They are.
Landmark is sort of the sandbox development cycle for Next. A lot of the things that are coming up in Landmark are going to be in Next, including the whole Voxel system.
Well, that's the interest, because it's the back end, like structural stuff that as players we're not meant to be able to see, is all going to be, that's all going to be a solid platform for them to carry on building. But if we are to believe Mr. Jeff Butler, creative director for Landmark Quest Next, he says when they started talking about Landmark, they wanted Landmark to be a tool to build EverQuest Next that could also be a game for players. Amazing, creative leap, makes a lot of sense to me. Other designers, the art team, were saying like, well, wouldn't it be easier if we just did things in 3D Modeler, if we just did things in Maya or whatever, and just imported them into game that way? And Jeff Butler's response to that was, if it is easier to do that, then we'll have failed in what we want Landmark to be. Remember, that's not just building tools. That's all the AI and mob design and everything. They want to have all the tools that can make the game within Landmark, which means as Landmark develops, as Landmark becomes more fully featured, and as Landmark can do more, that means they can do more for EverQuest Next. But all that like back end stuff, all that foundation, that's all going to be there for them. And it's the little like mechanical differences that are more moving numbers around than they are like writing like really hard code kind of stuff. So in terms of time, I mean, Smedley's saying next year for an alpha. Might be a bit optimistic.
I think it's a bit optimistic.
What do I know?
I'd kind of like to see it percolated a bit more. Maybe keep it in the oven just a little bit longer, just to kind of get it all right. Use Landmark as the launching point, the what do I want to say, the cauldron where we're throwing in all this stuff to get it to kind of work together and grow and figure out this doesn't work, and perfect it in Landmark, and then boom, EverQuest Next comes on the scene, it's thrown down, and we're all happy with it because it's been set up. What I think would kill, and this is something we could talk about too with Arcade. I've been playing Arcade, of course, and Arcade works. It's beautiful. It's great. And why it's so good and why it's so great, because it's been in Korea for 2 years, where they've had time to really tweak it, break a bunch of stuff, and so now when we're first seeing it, we're like, oh my god, this is a great game. Well, of course it's great. It's had 2 years to be developed and everything, and I'm hoping that they can somehow use Landmark to do that sort of thing. Go ahead, Stackus.
I was just going to say, and Arcade isn't even finished yet.
Right.
Like, they're more than open in saying this is still not done, yet it's sat in the Korean market and other markets, building and being tested for 2 whole years, and only now is the Western sector seeing it, and it's still not finished in their eyes, yet all of these American streamers and international streamers are getting on here going mind blown, oh my god, this is so good. So I mean, whether or not Sony need to put off the introduction of Next, we'll be yet to see that.
Right.
I mean, as far as from that panel that I watched at PAX, the one thing that I took from it that really stuck in my mind, I mean, they spoke about a lot of different things. I mean, they went on monetization and all sorts of stuff, but I mean, they went into technicality and the technology of sandboxes and stuff. The one big thing that I got from the entire panel was, out of every single topic that was brought up, there were lots of different. Like, there was the Warhammer guys, there was the Wildstar guys, another one that I couldn't quite remember what his game was called, but everyone had sort of not a negative point of view, but it was always like, well, we can't do this, but this is what we're doing to try and get around that. But every time Dave got a chance to speak, it was never we can't do this or we're not going to try. It was like, well, we're going to try.
Right.
We're going to give it a go. You say this can't be possible, well, we're going to try and do it. And it was just the very positive drive, just the can-do attitude that Dave had to every single question that really instilled a sense of positivity and hope for the game. As far as he spoke a big game, and we all hope that SOE can pull through. Whether or not they can or not, we'll see.
We'll see.
They've aimed for mid 2015 to sort of have anything to show for it. Is that long enough? Well, we don't know. But definitely the positivity from Dave towards every sort of situation that they sort of say. The people in the crowd are like, but what about this? And every question, Dave had a very positive and like, well, we're going to try and address that. We're going to try and create a technology to address that issue. And that really gave me sort of confidence in Sony and Next for what it could be.
Go ahead, Locke.
There is a I was going to say, I think I agree completely with Stackus, and I think as well, the thing that SOE are doing at the moment, like, everything is so consistent. Like, when Dave Georgeson's being really positive about it in that way, because of the nature of the design of Landmark and EQ Next, I think they really are going for it. It's not just a lip service thing, and I think that if you look at what SOE are doing, what they're doing with Storybricks and what they're doing with Voxel Farm, it's a very consistent design ideology.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Stefan Burr, the lead designer at Storybricks, is a really cool guy, was talking about it. And he said what they want Storybricks to be is a middle point between design, art type people on one side and programmers and code type people on the other side. They want to create a system that is accessible to everyone and the average player can get into and like mess around with and play, but has enough depth to be able to create a larger system from that. Exactly the same with Voxel Farm as well. It's a system that is designed to allow people with a more artistic sensibility to get in and be able to create a world. It's not like the original EverQuest where they had to like sit and write the code and then the thing would appear and they'd look at it and then they'd go back and change the code and look at it again. Now it's
they're
like
dragging things around, little blocks
it's
around.
all right there in front of you, and the intuitive nature of it is what changes everything, because now they can look at all the things that people are doing in Landmark at the moment, and everything that they see in that is inspiration to bring forward everything. Storybricks going from the middle and changing the core way the game is made to begin with. Like, it's not like looking at going, okay, this is an MMO, and this we're going to take off, and this we're going to add in here, and that's got to go like that. It's not that at all. They're starting with the tools that they're using to build something from. So if they end up making a game that's the same as a lot of other MMOs that we've played, then that's serious failure. But I cannot see it happening just with the way that they're approaching the design. That gives me a lot of faith, and it's why I'm incredibly excited about this project. It is true. If you look into it, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not making this stuff up.
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to say something. Yeah, I was going to say, when you were talking back about the complexity and the simplicity of Storybricks, we watched the H1Z1 12-hour live stream the other day. And during that, they showed how they were doing their AI. And it's like, it was a grid system, and they're not using Storybricks. And it looked like incredibly complex. Like when they were dragging, they had these little lines that were kind of connecting these things like that. And it was just a sea of this really crazy thing. And then I look at the Storybricks, and it's almost like, just drag this there, drag that there, drag that there. Okay, now we have an AI built into this character. And it just seems way more intuitive. And like you're saying, it's something artistic people can get their head wrapped around, because they can see that. And the programmers understand the logic behind each one of those bricks. And they go, oh, okay, that's just this doing this, then that statement or whatever. So
it's bridging the gap between the sort of artistic temperament and the more technical temperament, like approaching it from either direction. Hopefully you'll be able to get a similar result, like depending on your own sort of talents, I guess. It's a wonderful thing, and it's what allows, we've said we're not going to talk about Landmark too much, but I think it feeds in to EQ Next in this way, where they want to be able to build EverQuest Next using Landmark, which means we haven't seen most of the people that are going to play this game, like what they can do. Like, there's people now, the competition started, there's more people kind of coming to the fore and starting to market themselves a little bit more, and want to show their stuff off. And it's absolutely incredible what's happening already, and it's such early days.
Mm-hmm. It is. We have a year and a half of vapidity to cover.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We have job security, folks.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna be at this a while.
We are.
Oh yeah.
Okay, excuse me a second. Sorry. All right. So I think it's about that time we can start up the Q&A. What do you guys think?
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Already.
It's been almost an hour already.
Yeah.
Oops.
That's flown by.
Just screwed up my layout. Hold on.
No.
Okay, I put it back. It's all good. Okay, it's all good. All right. Let's see. Who wants to read the questions tonight? I guess I can. All right. First question's from Mag. I've never been able to pronounce his name right. Just Mag.
Hey, Mag.
Can we get 6 times more lock? And can this be the lineup for Evers?
No.
It's good to have people who play and understand games and can express themselves in an informed manner. Oh, Mag. I love Mag. He's a great fellow.
Who's he talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah,
He's watching a different podcast.
He's
he's typed that accidentally in the wrong chat, I believe.
That was for another show altogether. Thank you, Meg.
He's been incredibly supportive of me for a long time, and I'm very, very grateful for all the lovely things he says. So cheers, mate. Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Dazzler 2 Dirk says, question for Locke. Can I get some loaves and fishes?
Mate, I've only got like 5. What do you want though?
One pun
fish. That's because you were Jesus when he asked that.
Yeah, that was. It's not for me. It's not for me to say whether I am Jesus. All right, that's for everyone here to think about in their own time.
Good point.
If I was Jesus, this is the type of place I'd be. Hang out with, spending time with reprobates and degenerates.
Thanks a lot.
Men from Australia.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I wouldn't be on one of them fancy podcasts like at the SOE studios.
Their podcasts are getting much better. Remember when we first started watching them? They were definitely in a learning curve. But
I love
great.
I love how relaxed they are with it now. It's so nice.
Yes, I mean Dexella's sort of like chilling out. She's just talking and stuff. We sucked really bad when we started.
She's got it down now. She's really good.
I have to say my favorite part of the live show is Omid's ozone.
Absolutely.
And I know he's in
self-enforced exile.
I know he's in chat, but I have to put it out there. Every time they cut to Omid, I'm like waiting with bated breath for what he comes up with next, because every single thing guaranteed makes me laugh out loud.
Yes.
It's just
totally, he's totally stolen my whole act though. Like every time he like does something, I'm like, you got that from me.
The only thing he needs to do now is do the impromptu zoom in and I'm not a performing monkey, and then he's got you down. He's got your show down.
If they give him access to the Zoom, like it's game over for me.
It's all over.
Even better than watching him say random crap is like their reactions to his random crap.
Yes, because you know that they're tense. They're sitting there going, "What's he gonna say? What's he gonna say?"
Something bad. Do we have a bleeper?
I love it because Dave George is there like, go on, say it. Say more.
I think Omid and Georgeson have a very similar sense of humor, and then when Omid comes out with the red tube comment, it's like, oh, I've come up with red tube, and Dave just can't stop himself. He couldn't stop laughing.
Community management.
Yeah, you could see behind the counter, they were like, oh my God, what is he saying? And Dave's like, yeah. It was great. It was value for money, just for that.
Yeah.
Value for money.
Yeah. All right, next question. What new game mechanics, this is from McCaden, what new game mechanics can we expect? A new combat system, new crafting system, new questing system, and what makes it stand out?
Yes,
all of them.
All of those things?
All of those things.
Pretty much.
New combat system, because it's not based off of macro smashing.
Mm-hmm.
And mixing and matching classes.
It's a little similar to like maybe Guild Wars in some regard, Guild Wars 2 and a little bit like Arcade now, with sort of you can pick sort of a little bit from this class and a little bit from this class, a little bit from this class, and put them together into your own sort of setup. Which I think
I saw the build system as more of a MOBA thing, because you have your static. You have your static skills per class. So you got a wide variety of classes that have got 4 skills each, which immediately to me says, that's very similar to Dota. But then you've got those extra slots, which can be from other classes, or I think I heard somewhere that they could be like equipment based and things as well. So you have those extras, which is what I assume you'll have a class which can perform a variety of roles, and then whatever 4 abilities you slot after that will kind of focus your role more. Like in MOBAs at the moment, if you have one particular hero, depending what items you buy, depending on how you operate during the match, it changes your role. Anyway, sorry. Build speculation.
But that's fine. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
But for me, the important thing about the combat system that you have to remember is with the exception, I can't really think of a comparable exception, but so many MMOs we have now, they operate on a 2-dimensional plane. Mm-hmm. Apart from maybe the occasional PvP map that will have it'll have like areas, vantage points, and things. But ultimately, you're fighting on one flat surface. Mm-hmm. Whereas in EQ Next, the world is destructible, so everything immediately becomes it's a 3D environment. So everything that you can do, you have to be able to do in every direction to function, because you don't know.
You could get into PvP combat with somebody.
Like you could be attacking or be attacked from any possible
like being in a spaceship.
direction.
But you could. But the worst part is you could be attacking somebody. You're fighting. You think it's just you and them, and all of a sudden you fall into the earth because somebody's been below you digging a hole. Yeah. And waiting for you to fight. You fall into a group of 20 and you're toast. I mean, that kind of thing could totally happen, like like a secret pit or something like that.
But as well, remember, it's not just destructibility as well. It's constructibility. Like you can build things just as easily as you can destroy things. So you're operating. Think about a PvP arena that is just a flat plane. I know I talked about PvP. Mm-hmm. Don't worry. Don't panic. It's going to be.
I'm totally unpanicked right now.
Imagine what happens. You're on a flat PvP arena and it's 1v1. Now that, in a traditional MMO, that comes down to a pretty much a shin kicking competition. You circle strafing around each other because you're elite. But apart from that, that's ultimately it. But then as soon as you put one pillar in the middle of that arena, suddenly you have line of sight to play with. And that exponentially it just completely changes the entire dynamic. Suddenly, like, what class you are is important. It's not just range that's important. There's line of sight, direction, like how you approach, how you retreat. Everything is different. Now imagine that it's not just one static pillar in the middle. It's all different kinds of shapes that can come into play at any time.
Right.
As well as
any
being
dimension.
able to move, as well as being able to move other people and yourself in a full range of movement. And then it's not just things appearing, it's things disappearing. Once again, in a full 360 range. You could be in a cave underground, you could have a fight that could go up. Like, it could go vertically, and all the time the physical space that you're in is changing constantly. Like, if you want to talk, that's a very literal possibility space. That's how combat is being approached.
And
in this
I
game.
watched I forget his name, and Omid, if you could remember and type his name in the chat for me, that would be fantastic. But we were watching a newer streamer the other day come up with a PvP system for Landmark, and basically it was a. Did you see it? Block? You're not.
This is the block disappearing.
The block.
Yeah.
And even though that is not technically really PvP, like, you're not killing the other player. It does.
That is PvP. It's player versus player. Monopoly is PvP.
It's true. Oh, yeah, okay. So anyway, but yes, you're changing the environment with just by being able to place blocks. Now, maybe you won't be able to do that in EverQuest next. Probably not, because otherwise you could build some massive block that you could lock them in forever, So that might not be a possibility. But yes, being able to destroy the earth, the ground underneath you, underneath the opponent. Maybe there will be some spells that involve building like a mud pall or something like that you just throw this big old pile of mud on them and then they can't move or whatever. There's a bunch of different ways that you're going to be affecting the environment in this game differently than any other game ever.
The voxel nature of it as well means that we're not just going to have physical voxels. Like, if you think already we know that we've got solid blocks that you can't see through. We've got luminous blocks. We know that we're going to have glass blocks. We know that we're going to have water blocks. So you then think about all the things that can be created in all different shapes and all different positions, and then remember that they can function in like different states of matter. And there's more states of matter than solid and liquid, and they have different properties as well.
Yep, mind blown. Omid says
that's what's different. That's what's different about the combat system.
The player's name was Branix. Sorry, I believe you're right. Omid say. Okay. All right. Let's move on to next. Did you have anything to say about that either, guys? Skyla or Locke? Oh yes. Go ahead, Skyla.
Yep. Oh, he got it. He got it.
Oh, okay.
He got it. I don't even need to talk. I got this.
I could go for another hour or so on the.
This is why I have Locke around. I basically throw a question at Locke. He'll talk for an hour, and I'll answer it.
Yeah, it's fine. I just chill.
The rest of us, the other three, we're just pretty faces. We're just.
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, Locke your pretty face too. All right, let's see. Nalked you. What is known about the crafting system? Will you eventually have to make a choice whether you want to become a master crafter, master, whatever.
Insert combat style.
Combat template. I guess what he's asking is, will I become, master blade dancer, or will I become a master blade smith? And which one will I end up becoming? That's what I think he's getting at.
I'm pretty sure you can become all of the things, all crafting abilities, and then you can collect all bajillion classes, 60 classes or whatever it is. I'm pretty sure you can master all of that from what we know, right? And there's no gathering skills. Everyone can gather everything, so that's a thing. Yeah.
I think as far as I've heard, they're not going to lock people out from doing that, especially the way that they want a big part of the game to be adventuring through the world and collecting classes and adding, in a horizontal progression system. It's all about, opening up what you can do, like how many roles you can fill, like how specific a niche you can occupy yourself and how well you can do that. So I kind of hope, going back to EVE Online again, the sandbox thing. In EVE Online, you can do everything. but whether you have the time and resources to be able to commit to that. Like in EVE Online, it takes, I think at the last count, it was 25 years to max out every skill.
Oh, wow.
But importantly, in EVE Online, the power curve is very, very flat. It's not like typical theme park MMOs where you start at level 1 and then you go, you know, and just launch up through the roof in terms of power. It's such that if you're 5 levels apart, you might as well be playing different games. You know, in EVE Online, it's so flat, and it takes so long as you get towards the higher end of stuff that, you know, you need to be really committed to want to get into those kind of like top 5%. If you want to be the best at something, you have to go for that one thing. Whereas if you want to be good at everything, then you can. And I think that's it's a decent trade-off. I'd hate to see them locking people out from being able to do what they wanted. I don't think that's the direction they're going with this game.
No, based on how much customization you can do, it seems arbitrary for them to do something like that.
Yeah, it would certainly be.
I'm pretty sure they've set outset. They want everyone to have the ability to try and master all and every type of skill. If you want to have a baseline of all skills, but then select one to be the best in at, you can. Or if you want to be good at everything, you can. But of course, the time that you have to put into being the best at one or a couple of those skills, you know, it'll level out. You'll have to devote a lot of time and effort to being the best at one skill, but that does not mean that you can't be okay at every other skill that's available to you. I think they've said from the outset they want everyone to have the option to mix and match the skills or the crafting, you know, your crafting level. And I think combat might be the same. I think they want the same thing. As like, you can be a master at wielding a blade, but you're not going to be good at anything else if you've just concentrated on mastering that one skill. They're not saying you can't try and master all the other skills, but the amount of time needed to devote to mastering that will mean that you're going to have to devote that time to it. So they want everyone to be able to mix and match from the outset, and that's a really cool thing. It's like, yes, I want to be good at using a blade, but I also want to use, you know, I want to be able to do a spell as well. So they're not saying if you want to be a melee character that you can't be a spellcaster. It's just if you want to be good at both, you have to devote the time to it.
I think it's kind of like, do you want to be I want to say like a
Pokemon
Tesco.
Master.
What's that? Like a supermarket. Do you want to be a supermarket, or do you want to be a little? Do you want to be a little a cheese deli?
Oh.
You know, like do you want to be the big supermarket that does everything? And loads of people go to you because they know that they can get whatever they want, and you know it's all going to be fine. Or do you want to go for that niche crowd that you want to be? If someone wants the best cheese, they're not going to the supermarket.
All I keep thinking of is that Monty Python sketch, the cheese shop. Got any Stilton?
Yeah, it's like it's funny. Like Monty Python started as just a documentary of life in Britain, and
I thought
other people just didn't get it. You know,
I thought it was.
Cool.
All right.
Same with Faulty Towers as well.
Next question.
Sometimes.
All right, this one I'm going to throw at Skyla. All right, you ready, Skyla? Are you ready? Okay. Will the announced linear plot hurt the sandbox nature of the game?
I don't think so, because they have made it clear that a lot of what you do in the game is whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. So if you did not want to follow the linear story of the game, you wouldn't necessarily have to, although it may benefit you. I think that something else.
There's so many things.
I read the question and I was like, oh, I've got a great answer for this, and then
that's fine.
Oh, it's tough. I mean, it's a different. Obviously, it's a worry for the game. You know, it was something about the rallying calls system that I kind of went like, oh, is this going to be another like Guild Wars 2 like events type of thing?
Rift,
or a rift, or those anchor things in ESO they have these days. You know, but I think the storybook system is the big thing, because remember, all the key story NPCs that exist in the world, they're going to have built into them as NPCs. They're going to have wants and needs, desires, motivations, and they're going to do their best to make those come about within the world. So as a player, you can support them, or you can go against them in what they're trying to do. And ultimately, once they achieve that goal, it doesn't stop. They achieve a certain goal, and then their situation changes. And this is the important thing about the AI, because NPCs can change their situation, and then once they're in a new situation, their wants alter with it, because they understand that they've got that thing that they want. An example is you can help out a benevolent faction. There can be a charitable NPC organization that goes around and gives money to the poor, and they're doing it all in the name of their god, and it's all wonderful and fantastic. And you're like, oh, brilliant! This is really supporting all the towns, and it's helping the economy in this area, and we want to support this as players because it makes our lives better. But then that same organization reaches a tipping point of power and influence. They've accumulated all of this, all of these good deeds that they're doing. They're attracted to these sources of like the sort of religious power in areas, and once they have enough of that and they have enough influence, they basically turn evil because they have enough power. And there's no way that players could know about this, but it just happens. We support them, and then suddenly it's like, the old switcheroo. And like in theory, that kind of thing can be built into the game, like at any point. And remember, it's not in a vacuum either. Like everything, I did a video on this, and it was hilarious. Like, when you realize that everything that's happening, all the wants and needs and motivations, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists with outside pressure. And every time anything goes somewhere else, it has to displace something else, and it has to have a reason for moving, and then it creates a vacuum itself. And that's not that's not on a static 2D plane. That's in a 3D environment where everything is constantly pushing against each other. And it's those things that make sandboxes compelling. The world has to be dynamic, and the world has to move. And if they can pull off the Storybricks thing so that can happen in a meaningful way, that things can move, motivations can change, desires can change, factions can change, loyalties can change, and players are affecting this all the time. NPCs affecting each other, players affecting each other, players affecting NPCs affecting players, and everything just moves all the time. That's how you create compelling sandbox story with NPCs and with storyline in the way that it will be defined by Storybricks.
Okay.
Yeah. I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Skylar was saying that you don't have to do the storyline. I mean, there's one there, and she's right. Doing the storyline may be beneficial to you on multiple levels. And the majority of people may be there for the storyline, and then the openness of the sandbox and the ability for the NPCs to adapt to their situation may be just a side benefit. But it could very well be that SOE may plan for a large faction. It may be built in, but a certain set of circumstances have to happen. And Locke was talking about the old switcheroo. It may be that it's not a scripted thing that happens where you get through a certain amount of the storyline and then all of a sudden that happens because it's scripted. It could be that the players themselves have, en masse, have made a decision to support a particular part of the storyline, which then drives that other faction to do the switcheroo. It could be purely player driven. And it could be just on a personal quest, not even on a world basis. It could be just on your own personal quest line that you're deciding to do. Particular decisions you make, you decide to give this guy the stuff that he wants in order to fulfill the quest, or on the other side, you just decide not to. Like, no, I'm not going to give you these 3 gold bars because I don't have them, or I don't want to give you them, so I'm going to try and kill you instead. It creates a domino effect. Just even in your own personal play experience, that further on in the line, that's then created a rift between you and that particular faction. And therefore, further on in the actual storyline, you might not find it as easy to complete the storyline, or you might find that it plays out very different for you than everyone else because of the way you've acted and because of the way the NPCs will react to how you react. And so it gives you an almost mind-boggling dynamic that opens up so many possibilities.
And
because it's constant ripple. Sorry, Skylar, carry on.
I was going to say, the best part of all of that is that it can be different between servers. That's amazing.
Yes. So on this server, but then the server hopping issue is, on this server, we completed the Hollis section, and on the next server, they haven't even started it yet. So how does that affect? And you saw what happens after the Hollis thing. A certain boss shows up or something. And now what? So now you're on the next server. You're like, hey guys, you need to do this step and this step and this step, and this boss will show.
That's what's so amazing about it, because it won't be like that. Text. It's about the context. Like on one server, they could trigger something in a certain way, or they could work something out. They could work out that a faction, once it reaches a certain tipping point, does a particular thing. But the important thing is it doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
It's constant. Like there's always pressure from other sources, and it's all about the context of what's happening in the immediate area and of the world at large. Like it's going to be very, because remember the NPCs are interacting with each other at the same time, so it'd be. If you had two servers and you started on day one and you said, okay, we're going to do everything the same way. We're going to support this group. We're going to push down this group. We're going to attack these NPCs. We're going to ally with these NPCs. You could do that from day one and it would still be different, because the AI of those different groups and of those different factions has interacted with the world in a way that makes sense for them at the time. Because it's not just, remember, these things aren't just being placed in the world and then left for us to interact with and like either tip or not tip. It's always moving and it's always happening. It's just the NPCs are reacting and interacting.
It's very organic, very fractal almost.
Yeah, and then even if you were like super organized and you had like huge guilds like doing this on like two different servers, you'd still have other players on the servers who weren't doing that as well. So like one thing, you could maybe say something as big as support this faction and Halas will get built. But I assume that's the type of thing that's going to be reserved for the rallying call system. Like those really big like world changing events. But even them, like it's all context. It's all like what is around at the time. It's not like you get to a certain point and the dragon spawns on the mountain. It's like, is there a dragon on the mountain?
Yeah.
Is there a goblin king nearby that you can piss off by clearing the goblins out the forest? Like you don't know. There might not be. It might be kobolds in the forest, and when you clear them out, they might get scared and run off and like go into a different area that then has like an effect on them. But the kobolds have run off, which has left one area like unclaimed, as it were, that then another faction moves into, and they might be a benevolent faction that players want to ally themselves with, or it might be a player organization that moves into that area, and everything's just like ripple effects all the time. It's very exciting.
It is. All right, Stockus.
Yes.
This question's for you.
Okay.
From Death Rises, as these games get more intense, graphics will be the average. Intense graphics. Will the average guy be able to afford better computers just to play? Now, the reason I threw it at you is because you're a computer guy.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
Look, I mean, that is always a massive issue, because with these massive leaps in technology that create all these fantastic possibilities, it does end up putting a tax on your system. And I know at the moment playing Landmark, we've seen in the unoptimized state that it is taxing even a lot of the more beefy gaming PCs. I mean, myself, I've just built a brand new PC, and even sometimes I find some situations in Landmark doing that. But I think it's always a scale sort of deal where you've got the two sides, where the games themselves will rise in technology availability, what they can do, and that will require a certain level of PC, and then of course the technology will rise to meet that, or whether or not the technology rises to a certain point, they're like, hey, we've got all these fantastic new features, and then the game developers think, oh, well, we can now implement all these things.
So
I still believe...
I'm going to AFK 2 minutes. I'll be back.
Okay, yep. Okay. I think, though, from what I've heard from Sony themselves and through the devs talking, whilst they want to implement all of these technologies, they still want average Joe with his normal sort of run-of-the-mill PC to be able to play. I mean, we saw the introduction, or should I say the implementation of 64-bit only. Like, you can't play Landmark at the moment on anything but a 64-bit system. And they had to do that. There were many, many reasons they had to do that. And that was, performance was one of those big issues. The amount of performance they could draw out of a 64-bit system, suited the way that they were developing the game. So, I mean, there's always going to be that odd guy out that hasn't got a system powerful enough, that's hugging on to that 30-bit XP machine,
right.
Because they love it and it's theirs and they built it and it works for them. In that sort of circumstance, unfortunately, that particular individual, and we use the word individual, is going to be left out. But I think by the time...
That's the way,
yep.
though, that games have pushed product development for years.
That's right.
Otherwise, we would still all be on 46 46 SXs or DXs or whatever. Because,
I don't know about that, but...
But, it's because the gamers and games have been like, and I gave this example one time that I was trying to play a new Chris Roberts game, and I looked on the box, and it said I needed 1 megabyte of RAM. I'm like,
yep.
Damn. I now have to go out to the store because I had 512 kilobytes. I had to go out to the store and buy another 512 kilobytes of RAM, and it cost me like $180. Yep. Come home, install it just so I could play that game, because in those days the games didn't work. So I had to do that. It almost, and I'm not trying to be mean to anybody in the audience tonight that has financial issues that can't do that, but it's almost in a way insulting to the developers to say, look, you need to make this game run on my Windows XP machine that's a Phenom 2 AMD with a 9000 series. Oh, hey, it's a foo.
It's a foo.
Hi, foo, eating her Vegemite.
Yo. Yeah, and I agree with you on a very large level that you're right. That there has to be, in order to make the game have longevity, they have to develop it with the idea that it's going to be used with future technologies. They can't retro design their games, and it would just be a big tombstone on their game. They may as well have an RIP, SOE, Landmark, or EverQuest Next on the box of the game if they were developing it to run on machines, either this current generation or even previous generation games. And it's just the hard, cold fact that they have to put longevity in. And the truth of the matter is, in 2 years, in 3 years' times, the machines that will be just affordable to every old Joe.
No. Oh, she ate it.
Yay! Woo!
No,
that's right.
It's for you, suckers.
This is bad. I didn't mark this as for mature adult content.
Hang on, I don't have a spoon for you, but I'm sure you could find.
Yeah.
You have to have the wind, the fan blowing in the foreground, blowing the hair while you seductively eat it off the spoon.
That's okay.
But
No, Lockie. No. You stay off.
You get off.
I've been replaced already. Bloody hell.
That's okay. We don't mind. But and yes, so like I think now at this point in and I'm going to use Star Citizen as a massive sort of example here.
PC Master Race, just say it.
No, not even PC Master Race. Star Citizen is a massive, massive game. Mm-hmm. They are planning so much incredible stuff.
Every week, something new.
It's mind-boggling, and the amount of taxation it's going to take on your system, like the raw power required to run what they have planned right now is fairly mind-boggling. Like I was running a, what was it? It was an i7 950, slightly older chip. I had 24 gigs of RAM. I had a GTX 670, not bad. I tried running just the hanger module, and it. Oh yes! Oh, that is fantastic. Someone screen cap that.
You better do that. It's going to be on your stream forever, you know.
And I was running this game at low settings, and I was still getting lag. I was getting major issues because they're not designing the game for today.
They're designing it for the future.
They want this game to last. I mean, how long's WoW been going?
2004. Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah.
I struggle to find anyone now that can say an everyday average Joe machine that was available at a very affordable price at that point could have run that game in its full entirety, full graphics, full maxed out, and not had some problem.
No, there's no way. A 2004 machine cannot run WoW at that level. I see what you're saying.
That's right. And that's just the nature of the beast. So I don't want people to get disheartened that, all this stuff's going to happen. We've got all these massive games coming out with all of this new graphic, like PBR and all this, new 3D graphic rendering coming in, to get disheartened about the fact that, my poor old machine's not going to run it. Don't fret. Sure, your machine won't be able to be running right now.
You scared the fool away.
Oh, but they're not designing these games for right now. Sorry, Skylar, yes.
No, she was being waving.
I was waving.
Oh, by Foo, yes. Love you, Foo. I think by the time Next is out and available and ready for everyone to play, the average Joe machine that you can go down to your PC shop and either get them to pre-build for you, or the types of available and affordable parts for PCs when the games comes out will run that game without a single problem.
Right.
It's just a struggle. Unfortunately, it's a catch-up game. It's either one or the other. Either the games are dictating the level of technology required to run it, or the technology is dictating the level of game that's being developed.
Right. All right. That was a good one.
Yeah. It's always a trade-off. They want as many people as possible to play it, but they also want the game to have a certain amount of longevity. So
yep.
And PBR is physics-based rendering. And we won't go into that tonight. But if you want to see, what PBR looks like, there's a game called Rise for Xbox One. Look up gameplay of that. It has PBR, and of course the Star Citizen ships will be coming with PBR very soon. Okay, to catch your PCs in the wild down under. Yes, they're all koalas own PCs, and it depends on which koala you go for if it's going to have an AMD or an NVIDIA chipset.
The higher the gum tree you climb to then fight the drop bear, the better the PC you'll end up with.
Gotcha.
Everything in Australia is made out of deadly wildlife. True story.
All right, I have another question for Skylar then.
Yes.
Skylar's like, oh no. With an ever-evolving world planned, how do you see these world events like, the
rally
calls and those kind of things, and worldwide events happening and changes communicated to the players? Like, how will the players find out what's going to come to them? I mean, how will they know all that? Like, where's the information going to come in? What do you think?
SOE giving us information about what's happening on specific servers or big things that the players are doing is going to be pretty cool. If they communicate with that to us. Oh, on this world you can go and see this boss and it's really awesome. But I think that lies in the hands of the players.
You think that the players would probably be more inclined to be like, hey man, there's this new rally call just popped up over here.
Yeah, I think fan sites and the way that players communicate on social media is really where that driving force is going to be, way more than SOE. That's always sort of the thing with EverQuest, right? I mean, the players have always been a huge community there, and I don't think that's going to change with Next. I just think that's going to get bigger.
But sites like Wowhead are not going to exist. They've specifically said we will not have any kind of site that you can go to find out, like, that if you drop this many things on this orc, then they'll spring out this boss, that kind of thing. That's right. Not going to happen. So it'll have to be some sort of dynamic system, and who knows, maybe some kind of a built-in Twitter system or some kind of like you were saying, some kind of social media thing that just
like
pops up
a global
tells
chat.
us.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
global chat that's happening on the globe, like literally a phone app or something like that spits it out like, oh my god, a new rallying call just popped up 100 feet from where your character logged off.
Yeah, on
something
your
like that.
server, you need to go do this thing right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
which will bring players into the game.
I hope so. I mean, I'm hoping that like something kicks off. Like, you know, the old city raids and stuff, or like if a certain area was being attacked by another faction, everyone would be like, "Oh, holy shit, get there now, run!" I hope it's like that, but you never know. You never know when and where it's going to come. Also, from what SOE have said, it sounds like they don't want players to know where
what's gonna
things
trigger
going,
it off,
or so in terms of like communicating with players, I think they'll probably spend more time trying to keep things hidden than they do, trying to get things out there. But also, they want everything to be logical. They want to. I mean, everything's. I suppose logical might not be the right word, but like any event that happens, like will have a cause, and a cause that makes sense. Like if you understand the reasons for it. So, if you kind of look at the world, you'll be able to, maybe if you have enough knowledge of the world, you might be able, you'll see like the different power struggles going on and different things happening. So you could probably push something in a certain direction because you think that will help something happen that you want to happen. And if you've planned it to a great enough degree and you've thought about, the whole butterfly effect thing, if you're smart like that and you have the power and resources to influence the world in that way, then maybe you could push something towards a certain conclusion. But then, it might be the old switcheroo. You might not get exactly what you planned, or, something unexpected but still reasonable could happen. So, as far as things being communicated, I agree. I agree with Scarter. I think the onus is going to be very much on the players to keep each other abreast of happenings.
Yep.
I'm just
maybe
gonna
that's what we'll see. Maybe we'll see.
Guys. Sorry, just going to just give me 2 seconds.
Maybe we'll see. No one knows me and Stackus are in the same room. It's really funny.
You guys are like, where are you going? Is Fu making some sandwiches out there? And she's like,
it's I forgot what I was going on about. God damn it.
It's okay. Let's go on to the next one then. We got one here from from McCaden. Which I don't know if it's kind of an odd question because it doesn't really show up as a question. Player created quest in overworld non-instanced. Do you know what he means by that?
Like, can players make quests? I think is what he
I
means by that.
believe so. I mean, with the story bricks, even in Landmark, you'll be able to make your own quests and build your own NPCs. Right?
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because obviously Landmark goes so far beyond that. Although with it being instance, non-instance, I think that's going to depend on the complexity of the mechanics. They've hinted quite heavily that complicated game type things are going to have to be instance and Landmark. But as far as EQ Next, I mean, one thing I'm hoping is so much of the content in Next is going to be player driven. Like if you look at, going back to EVE Online again, it's the go-to sandbox, all right? It's the one that I know.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Don't judge me. It's the go-to sandbox. Like so much of that game is down to players want things and players need things. And where there is demand, there can be supply, and you can supply products or services. You can do your own thing, and a lot of that comes from having to move things around the world, and a lot of it comes from having to deal with outside pressure. So I know that having to deal with pressure will certainly be part of EQ Next. Having to move things around the world, I'm not sure. Maybe they've got a different idea for that. I imagine it's the direction they want to go in. Whether that's possible, I don't know. But so as far as player created quests, in terms of like, will you click the exclamation mark and it'll be something that it'll be some dialogue that a player's written, and you do that? Maybe not. But, will a player need something that you can help them with? Almost certainly. So it depends what you mean by that. Stackus! Say some words, man!
I was going to say, maybe not necessarily Jim Bob has created a quest. I'm too lazy to go and mine this thing, go and do it for me. But maybe just going back to that whole needs, wants, domino effect thing. Maybe by some other player's interaction, it's created a new quest. You know, it maybe your interaction with one particular NPC then sparks that NPC to require something different, or you've knocked that NPC into its next sort of mindset. You've changed its situation in the world, and now all of a sudden that's created a new quest. So maybe it's not directly Jim Bob's creating a quest for Timmy Tom, but you've interacted with the blacksmith of a particular town, and your interaction with that blacksmith has then cascaded a particular situation that then creates that blacksmith to think, oh crap, well now I need something new or something different. And so you've then, you know, the next time you go to that blacksmith, he may have a completely different quest because another player has done something which has changed his situation. Possibly. I mean, that's the only sort of player-driven quest that I could come up with in my mind. I just don't think you're going to be able to say, I need someone to... I could see a billboard where someone puts up, I want someone to collect 100 logs of wood for me, you know, and then you go, oh, okay, someone wants 100 logs of wood. Sure, I'll go and do that. And then there's a trade, but that's more the what's the word I'm looking for? Economy. That's more of an economy type quest rather than an actual content driven quest.
Mm-hmm.
But
we don't know. We don't know whether or not that we'll be able to even do this.
Yeah, I mean that's just when the idea of a player driven quest comes out. The only way I could see a player influencing a particular quest in general would be if they've interacted with an NPC and that an NPC then, due to their interaction, then creates a new quest line on what's happened with that previous player.
Okay.
I want Crocus Maximus to be my new best friend.
No.
Tobrin isn't here tonight.
Hugs.
So, Crocus, you're my new best friend. And everything I say for the rest of the show is especially for you.
What did I miss?
Nothing. Okay, so basically Crocus asked at 6:15 if you could even server hopping next, and about 2 minutes afterwards, Omid said, we don't have plans for that right now. But back when we first started covering this, way back in August, they were talking about you could change servers without any kind of problems. Like you couldn't,
right.
You just be like, oh yeah, you just want to log into this server. So it wasn't until Omid just now said that they don't plan on doing that we didn't have that confirmation. We didn't know. So we had been talking all night that what happens when you go to this server? What happens when you go to this server? And now it might not be an issue.
Sure.
What a lot of people fail to understand is that many of these decisions haven't been made.
Right.
Like, we talk about these things, and I see people in chat all the time going, this is this, that is that, stop getting it wrong. It's like, you don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
They've said...
They don't know. The developers don't know.
SOE don't know. They're still talking about this. They're still designing this. Like, it's pre-alpha. We've still not got in. When we get into the game, we'll give them feedback, and they might make huge sweeping changes throughout that. Just because a dev has made a comment at SOE Live last year saying this is what we're planning does not mean that's how it will be, even now.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're doing this. This is a discussion show where we talk about topics and we talk about possibilities. It's meant to be a place to discuss ideas. We're not just sitting here reporting news and telling you what is and isn't going to happen.
That's a very good point. Yeah, these are just our opinions of what we think and what we've gathered from talking to the devs or just watching videos of ourselves. So
if you're not interested in taking part in discussion or exchanging ideas, then this show isn't for you.
Omid says we're not 100% sure that we'll stick to that at this point. It could change dramatically, no way to say. See, that's what we're saying is these are just us like throwing out like what happens if there's going to be laser beams and drop bears with laser beams on their heads. You know, it might be
drop bears are confirmed.
Drop bears are confirmed with lasers though.
Usually
made lasers.
Usually they wield some form of crude instrument, usually blunt and covered in the blood of their enemies. So, you know.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so Carnarvon says, RKH has wonderful stuff going on with boats and oceans. Smed has touted EQN as being the ultimate sandbox. Do you think we can expect some ocean-based stuff? Yes.
Oh, I hope
certainly hope so, yeah.
I almost guarantee it. because Vanguard, you could build ships, right? And so now in this game, EverQuest Next, I have seen no reason why there wouldn't be ships.
They just have to get the whole water thing figured out.
Well, they'll get 2 years for that. They'll figure it out.
I want so hard to make myself a ship and have a bunch of scurvy dogs with me and go around terrorizing people with no pants on. Basically, just, give us your Vegemite. No Vegemite? Ha ha! Just blow them out of the water. That's right.
Yep.
I hope so. Yeah. Yep.
I think, people are so pumped about it with Arcade or Archage or however it's said.
Say it your weird way. That's fine.
Is it Arcage?
I think that's how it's...
Archage sounds strange to me.
Arcade.
Maybe that's a translation thing, but I don't know. But yeah, I think it'd definitely be cool. I think as part of the whole like 3-dimensional thing, obviously like water is very interesting. You can be on land, inland. If you could be on water, in water, and then in the air as well, like different gaseous type things flying. I mean, these are the type of things that they add a lot of possibility to the world. If someone's got like a fortress that they've built up against a cliff to defend it on one side, and if you could come round the back by the sea and then have like a mining team that can go up through the cliff into the fortress and have them not see you, then that's the type of thing that can create incredibly compelling gameplay situations and decisions that people have to make. So yes, it would be amazing. But who knows if it's on the top of the list.
Yes. Right. All right. A couple more and I think we'll wrap up. Zytos asks, yeah, but what keeps players from going beyond the bring me 100 wood logs? Hell, if I were a rich guy in-game, I would just say bring me 1,000 elf heads. I guess I'm trying to figure out the context of this.
Yeah, cool. I'll go get you some elf heads.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about the economy, but I mean, if it all comes down to what players are willing to do. I mean, if the reward for those 1,000 elf heads is deemed suitable or enticing to the particular player that wants to take on that quest, that might not be such a ridiculous request. I mean, we don't know if that's even going to be possible. I was just using it as a point of reference, but say they did have some sort of system like that and you wanted to put on there bring 1,000 elf heads, if you were offering 1 gold bar and 1 gold bar, in retrospect to the rest of the economy as pittance, then no one's going to take your quest and you may as well be off in the wood doing it yourself. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that.
If that's what you want to do in the game, if you want to be like that power trader person, if you have enough power and influence, if you're the leader of a huge guild with loads of people in it that are really good at trading and playing the economy, maybe you will be in a situation where it's more convenient for you to go just to say to the people at large, I need 1,000 elf heads, I'm paying this much a pot, and they come in and you just buy them off people because all of your people are doing more important things, that's how it works. And maybe like the lower level people, that's if you're a high level player, you got shit to do. You want to climb to the top of the mountain and you want to fight the dragon that's up there. You don't want to spend your days in the woods like farming gold dust off kobolds. That's your time's your time's more valuable than that. You got better things to do. So yeah, hopefully
that could even play into the whole, say a particular guild of people want to take on that said 1,000 elf heads quest, but you've got a bunch of, I don't know, whatever levels, huge level 100s running around doing the important stuff. This ties back into the fact that
Did you just say level
players,
100?
I don't know, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yes.
High tier players that have better things to do than
just don't
pity
say
themselves.
That level word in this
Sorry,
game.
Okay, well, yes. I'll redact that. No levels.
Turn around, let's see the back of your
They have the best equipment out of your guild and they're off doing something more important, but the guild itself wants to take on this particular quest. There's nothing saying, and this goes back to, I know Locke likes talking about it, making lower equipment, lower equipped players more useful in their guild. A new player that's only got some base level equipment, but they're capable of taking on an elf and taking ahead. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, guys, we've taken on a quest for 1,000 elf heads. All of the lower level guys that can do this go off and bring in 10 heads each if you can, and then bring them back. And then
I'll point out the Zatios, the question asker, just said in chat, I was meaning that you could change the course of history in game if you reward people for doing something. Yes,
Why
you
not?
can. That is the nature of a sandbox. Your decisions are important. You know, the impact that you have on the world is very real. If you have enough power and influence, and you can influence enough people to follow your bidding, if you will, then you can change things. Same in EVE Online. These people at the top of these huge corporations, they make decisions every day that affect thousands of players, and there's no reason why it should be any different in EQ Next.
And Diggs is just putting.
You don't always 100% know what the consequences of your actions will be, but you can have an impact. You can have an effect.
And Diggs has just put in chat, I pay stackers to kill 1,000 elves and I still have a positive faction with the elves. Exactly.
Yeah.
If you choose to take on this quest and you go and kill the elves and the elves don't like you anymore, that you've gone and changed. Now your guild may not be able to do certain quests with elves because you've gone and pissed them off, because you've made that choice. And I use that word, that big word in brackets, choice. You have chosen to take on that quest, whether you thought of the consequences or not. Whether you thought about the fact that if I go and kill these elves, they might not like me anymore, or whether you thought, I want those, we'll make it 100 gold bars. I deem the 100 gold bars more important or more valuable than having a good, rapport with the elves. And so you take on that quest. But yes, that's a perfectly legit point. If you don't want to piss the elves off, but you still want those 1,000 heads, put it out to someone else who's willing to do it for you. Why not?
And what are you going to do with those heads as well? Like if you
put them on
maybe
pikes.
No.
Exactly.
I think you can it makes a lovely foundation for your house.
Exactly. If you're fortifying your home with elf heads, that might have an impact on your faction with the elves. Or if you can do something in secret that the elves still don't know about, then you could maybe do something behind the scenes. And remember, it's not just NPCs that you can do that with. You could do that with other player factions. You could employ a mercenary guild to harass another guild while the public face of your guild is very friendly with them, and you go, oh, that's awful, we'll totally help you deal with that as soon as we finish what we're doing. And then they wait for like the panic call from the other guild going, oh, we're gonna die, we need your help now, and they come to the rescue, and then at the last minute just wipe them out and take all their stuff.
Why not? And how exciting would that be if that could happen?
Yeah. It all goes back. You look at what website was it? I think it might have been MMORPG.com this week. Did a rundown of like the 15 top player generated or emergent experiences in MMOs, and I think the heist in EVE was obviously on there. The assassination of Lord British was on there.
Yep.
The Blood Plague from World of Warcraft, and a few others that I can't remember. But these events that they come about. They come about in the game, and then you just have to deal with them. They come about through either strange circumstances or incredible effort from players, and that's the landscape that you're playing on. It's not the developers saying, "Okay, Thrall's left now." It's not like Thrall's gone to sort this out, so now there's a new war chief. It's like the landscape can change constantly because of player interaction. And that's the nature of a sandbox.
Real quick before we wrap up here, Mark Pick has brought it full circle. Zombie rabbit heads on pikes.
Yes.
Confirmed.
That's left over from our H1Z1 podcast we did the other day. So thank you, Mark Pick. Obviously, keep paying attention. Just kidding, Geekdomo, you can keep your head. Cool, I think that'd be nice if I kept my own head. Appreciate that. All right, everybody. Well, this is great. Let's go around the room real quick. Tell who we are, where people can find our stuff, and we'll wrap this up. Mr. Locke.
Hello. My name is Locke. You can find me on Twitter at Locke6time. I write a column for a website called zam.com. There's a new one coming out tomorrow. The second part of my fun sucking series called Good Luck, Have Fun. Oh, it's so funny. Occasionally I stream and make videos. So follow me here, follow me on Twitter, and we'll hang out. It'll be cool.
Perfect. Matter of fact, Locke, just type your name in the chat. Everybody who's here, hit the follow button on Locke's. Actually, no, you're part of the Bearded Warriors.
Yeah, follow the
goddamn Bearded Warriors.
And
yes.
Amazonian princesses.
And Skylar, are you going to be joining? Did I send you the invitation? I think.
No.
I could have sworn I did. Oh my god, I'll have to do that right when this is over. I'll do that. So I apologize. And then Mr. Stockus.
Yes, I'm Sergeant Stackers. You can follow me on Twitter at Sergeant Stackers, on Twitch at Sergeant Stackers. You can just follow me in general if you want.
He doesn't mind.
Out the window, I mean, I don't mind. I don't ever wear pants, so, it's legit. It's worth just following me everywhere I go. And
just to see his butt.
Yeah, just to see me half naked. So, yeah.
Cool.
No one knows we're in the same room. I'm looking at him right now.
Ooh, stop it. All right, tease.
Oh.
Miss Skyla, tell us about.
No one knows he
what
has
you do.
hooves.
It's hard to follow up a naked Stackus. It's difficult.
It is always.
It's hard to follow up a naked Stackers.
It's not that hard, Skylar. Not that hard.
Oh God.
It's pretty hard.
Awkward.
It's pretty hard.
Locke, you might be pretty hard, but...
All right, let's move on.
Why don't
Go
you
ahead.
come over here and find out, Hotshot? Huh? You think you tell?
My name is Skylatron. You
Yes,
can
go
find
ahead.
everywhere at Skylatron, Twitter, Twitch, etc. I also stream for Tenton Hammer Network. You can find me there, and I play a lot of MMOs.
Yes.
Which one are you
There you go.
playing right now?
What are you playing?
I'm playing Arcade and EverQuest 2.
Are you playing
yeah.
Arcade? Oh,
Yep.
EverQuest 2. Good point. For all of the evil that they did last week, Sony has capitulated and given everybody a huge XP bonus this weekend, except in Landmark. What do you get in Landmark? You don't get XP. You get...
If you had a 7-day beta key that was active at the time, you get additional time added, but other people don't get things.
Yeah, so not much for that. But a double XP weekend for EQ, EverQuest 2, DCUO, and something else. I forget.
PlanetSide 2.
PlanetSide 2. So, I heard you got them feathers in a bottle. I do not get them feathers in a bottle yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, Omid says he walked back at the wrong... Yeah, you did, Omid.
No, you walked in at just the right...
Yeah.
Just the right time, Omid.
Of all the things we've said tonight, this would probably be the least offensive to Omid.
That's right.
Just the tip.
We've said many lovely things.
Yes.
That's right.
And I'm Geekdomo, and I've been playing a lot of arcades myself. Be playing a little bit of it tomorrow. I think Core of Existence and myself are going to try a leveling spree, so we're going to play that tomorrow. And Sunday, I think it's going to be a day off. I think I might have a little bit of a break. I'm getting a little fried because I'm doing 6 to 8 hours a day, if not more. But yeah, I'm here all the time. So if you guys want to check out this channel, I'm here playing all kinds of games. And all right. Oh yes, and if you guys would like to be updated more often, follow my Steam group. I'm starting to use Steam as my way to send notes out because a lot of people who are following this channel did not get notified about this show being started for like 45 minutes after we had already started. So, the emails are going out slowly from Twitch. So if you join our Steam group, it's just the Domo Tribe on Steam. We'll send out notices on the Steam, so it'll be a little bit better.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to try to get high enough level so I can start PvPing in AA. I'd like to try that out. And Omid, what are you streaming this weekend, sir? This is Omid's weekend. He's going to be streaming probably some...
Don't give him any promotion.
Why? He's nice enough to come here and answer questions and throw me under the bus. So we can... we'll wait to see what he says.
Probably Hearthstone, maybe?
Probably Hearthstone. Well, no, he's been playing... he says probably playing. I'll be probably playing some Hearthstone stretch goal for the month Legend level. Oh, so he's working on the Hearthstone. All right, everybody. If you're not familiar, click on Omid's name in the chat, and you can hit follow. You just click his name, and you go right to follow. And you can follow him, and you'll know when he's playing. So you can hang out with Omid.
No, it's not worth it.
It is.
Don't do it.
It is.
The
And
energy.
buy him lots of drinks.
Buy him lots of drinks. That's what I was going to say. You donate to Omid, he gets drunk.
I bought
And
him a
then he
bottle
lets
of
things
scotch.
slip like feather in a
People-
bottle.
Think about the energy it will take to move your mouse and then click the button. Think about all the other things you could do with that. You could think about a rainbow for a few minutes. And that will give you more enjoyment than following Omid.
Yeah, Omid says, yeah, follow the crap out of me. Exactly. I don't know if I want to follow the crap. I'm thinking like South Park Stick of Truth, and I'm just that whole thing's going off in my head, and yeah. Oh, and on that note, on that bombshell, let's wrap it up. All right, everybody, thanks a lot for coming tonight. This is our first inaugural cast of Into Next, an EverQuest Next podcast reboot. Probably be back next Friday with Into the Portal. So Into the Portal will be more lined up with Landmark, and this is going to be lined up with EverQuest Next. We'll try to alternate, just keep it real. All right, everybody, thanks a lot, and we will see you all next week. Until next time, see you.